What do you think conservatives and Republicans are missing in how they can better compete for Gen Z? If you've got this huge female swing, I'm aware it's New York centric, but it's probably indicative of other cosmopolitan areas around the country. What are the right missing that Mamdani got correct?
Again, I think it goes back to saying the right things, unfortunately. Like, it's like the right has to deliver. Like, that's easier said than done, but we're at such a turning point, as we've been talking about, that I think people, especially in New York, especially people who are on the left, were desperate for something new, because I think people on the left are just as fed up with their own establishment politicians. They were, they didn't want Kamala to be instated. I think they were tired of the fact that Bernie never got a fair shot because they whatever it is, they primaried him. And so I think that we're all dealing with the same type of feelings. And Mamdani was an outsider and a disruptor. And so I think that worked in the same way that Trump worked in 2016.
And this is an issue. Okay. This is an issue I think that JD Vance is going to face. I do feel like right now, there's just so much resentment towards the system. There is so much, people just want something different. They want an outsider like Brett and Chris are discussing here. They want someone like Mamdani, like Bernie Sanders, like Donald Trump, like Ron Paul. And JD Vance is not necessarily what you would call an outsider anymore. He is the sitting vice president. He's funded by huge tech billionaires who, is a co-founder of PayPal. And I believe now is one of the co-founders of Palantir. Like that's the man that funded JD Vance to get in the office, to get in his Senate seat, helped him get his vice presidency, I'm sure. And so there's this feeling on the right that JD Vance is just gonna become an institutional Republican. He's just gonna be more of the same old. Another neocon that wants to get us involved in wars and doesn't shake things up, doesn't change anything. He's just gonna be more of what we've seen over the last few decades that we just despise now. So that's an issue that I see with JD Vance running. I do think he's gonna be the nominee. I mean, he's obviously the sitting vice president right now, so it's hard to say that someone's gonna come and beat him in a primary or something like that. But I do believe that there's going to be a large number of Republicans that are just not going to get energized for him, which is not good. That is scary because you need energy. There's going to be so much energy on the left, so much for whoever they elect, whoever wins the primary. Oh my God, the energy that's going to be behind them is going to be crazy, and they're going to come together and they're going to work really hard to get that person elected. I don't know if JD Vance has what it takes to unify the right. I don't. So we'll see. I don't even remember why I started talking about this. I don't remember what Brett and Chris were just talking about. So let's get back to what they were saying.
And so I do think that it comes down to what Trump and Vance are able to deliver. And I also think if Vance is the nominee in 2028, his messaging has to be so incredibly clear, and he cannot fall prey to, the neocon messaging.
What would be the biggest errors that he could make if you were to design a campaign?
Brett seems amazing. Now I really do want to meet her in person. Now I do. I've met everyone else in this industry around my age other than Brett. And just the way she is speaking, the things that she is saying, I'm just like, wow, we agree on a lot. It's really remarkable.
Campaign for JD to fail as impressively as possible. What would you be talking about?
I think a big part of it would be tone and talking down to people. I think that's one way that he shines right now, is that JD Vance sounds the same when he is speaking to a supporter in middle of America. He sounds the same when he's speaking to a reporter. He tweets in the same way. He doesn't take himself too seriously. I think that is a great quality. And I think if he loses that and becomes a bit too, politician speak and a bit too diplomatic, I think that that's where he'll start to lose people again, because politics is personality. So I think that is going to be the driving force here. I think if he talks a lot about foreign affairs, I think if he's saying we're going to send all of our money overseas, I think that's going to be a problem for young people. Because again, if we're looking at our own country and going, if my generation is saying, I don't feel like I can buy a house, I am, under all of this debt, my taxes are so high, I can't start a family, whatever it is, if that is the attitude that they have and what they feel like their reality is, the last thing they want to hear is, hey, we're shipping our money overseas.
Which is part of the reason that I think his relationship with Palantir is kind of sketchy, because obviously Palantir, I believe that over 50%, 55% of their revenue comes from government contracts. So Palantir would potentially benefit from America being more involved in conflicts, right? So I think that what's the word I'm looking for here? That connection that JD Vance has to what's his name? Peter Thiel, that's his name. One of the owners of Palantir. I think that is going to hurt him a lot, especially with the younger generation of Republicans, especially the people that follow and listen to people like Nick Fuentes, people that listen and follow people like Dave Smith, people that don't want our money being sent overseas, people that are much more non-interventionist than previous generations of Republicans. The younger generation of Republicans, they are very, very non-interventionist compared to, the neocons that we saw in power during the early 2000s and whatnot, and kind of right now.
And so I think that's going to be a real pressing issue. I also think, when I said this in a recent episode, I was interested to see how people responded to it, and they actually agreed. But I kind of made a joke, and I was like, I don't think my generation cares as much about owning the libs. They care about owning a house. And the culture war is obviously important, but it felt less important in Mamdani's campaign. And I think that showed a lot. Like, obviously, he was like, you can come here and you can get...
Not just Mamdani's campaign, but all of the campaigns across the entire country during that same election cycle.
Your gender reassignment surgeries, whatever. But that wasn't key point of his campaign. He was talking about making your life better for all New Yorkers.
He was very radical economically, but relatively normal culturally.
I guess normal culturally for his base.
Yes, yeah, not
normal
left
in
of
how
left.
I would say. Yes, but it was not the focal point of his campaign. His campaign was New York first, allowing New Yorkers to be able to stay in their city and afford homes and afford groceries, and that worked for people. And I think that is working for people on the right. Like when I said that, I had hundreds of comments being like, oh my gosh, that is exactly how I feel. Like I'm fed up with going back and forth about she said, oh, this crazy person did this on the left. Like I'm tired of it. I just want to be able to move my life forward and not feel like I'm a hamster in a wheel. And I'm, both sides are giving me the same solution that isn't making my life any better.
I had a shiny object cycle that I tweeted about a while ago. And I think this kind of explains at least a little bit of what people have become frustrated with. So this is the culture wars shiny object cycle. Here's how it goes.
Okay.
Number 1, some woke news story hits the press. Cats suffer from racial discrimination, or screwing in light bulbs needs to be recognized as a valid sexual kink or something. Number 2, the right-wing antibody response activates. Look at how insane these people are. Matt Walsh quote tweets the article and calls it obnoxious. This is the problem with our convenient, decadent TikTok society. Number 3, this reaction causes the story to gain infinitely more traction than it ever would have done by signal boosting the original fringe scenario into a much bigger event. Number 4, the left-wing counter-response activates. Right-wingers lose their minds over one woman with a particularly dark cat. The Daily Wire has a meltdown over an insignificant troll article. In times where the original story is less insane, this includes a defense of the original article too. Cats actually can experience trauma. Minimizing this is the real problem. Number 5, the right-wing reaction kicks into gear. Apparently, I'm insane for pushing back against cat trauma. See, this is the problem. If we don't stand our ground, these blue-haired idiots will take over the country. And number 6, finally, the touchgrass meta-reaction re-steam in. The real issue is people talking about this issue. Look at how silly this whole thing is. It's time to check out of the culture war. We should reconnect with what really matters. Should move into the ranch next to Ryan Holiday and hammer fence posts into the ground for the rest of time. This cycle is banal. It's excruciatingly repetitive. So why does it sustain our attention if basically every discussion follows the same cycle? Because every story is sprinkled with just enough novelty to give it the illusion that this is a new event, which legitimates the pushback. We've not seen this trans flag with people who suffer from a gluten intolerance included in it before. It's like a 20th season of Lost where they're back on an island for the 7th time and need to escape, but this time it's winter. The culture war shiny object cycle does my head in. It does my head in because I get captured by it. I see a bank rewriting classic fairy tales into a boss bitch remake called Fairy Tales, princesses doing it for themselves, and think, this is fucking dumb. Where's Douglas Murray? I need him to decimate this idea with me. It's cathartic. Calling out insane ideas written by idiots is so compelling and fun and easy to do. It's like being a cocaine addict with Pablo Escobar as a next-door neighbor. The memes of production are whirring at maximum RPM and we're all caught in the vortex. But it's a distraction. It's a distraction from our attention being focused on the things which are actually meaningful. Not meaningful in a, will you remember this when you're dead way, but in a, there's other issues that are more important to talk about way. There's entire American cities with fentanyl epidemics. 80% of suicides are people aged 18 to 24 that are men. I want to hear Peterson talking about dealing with finding meaning in a world stripped of all its guardrails. I want Taleb to be writing about applying complex maths to simple life problems. Many of the smartest people on the planet have had their attention captured, arguing about whether men and women are women or not over the last few years, and even more of the less smart ones too. All of our collective minds are held hostage by an endless cycle of shiny objects that aggravate both sides and make them feel righteous for standing their ground. It's a bottomless pit. I don't think it's going to stop. I will almost certainly bring up stories like this in future, but I'm going to try hard to focus more on stuff that matters in 50 years, not just in 50 minutes. And probably so should you.
That's great.
Wow. So when he first started telling that story, I was just laughing because, I mean, it was kind of funny, right? It's incredibly accurate how things get blown up in the culture war, and then everything is just so reactive to that, or everyone is so reactive to that. But then it got kind of dark, and it's true that there are such terrible things happening right now in our country. Fentanyl overdoses everywhere. I've had far too many friends pass away from fentanyl. Suicide is skyrocketed, especially amongst men. I have too many friends that have, passed away due to that as well. And it does seem like our focus is just stuck on meaningless things. Some of the smartest people that I've ever watched that I know are focused on trivial things, these shiny culture war objects. It's kind of upsetting. And another thing that, Chris was mentioning that, they'll mention something culture war related to get your attention, and they'll just be like, it'll be slightly different from another story they've told in the past. So it's just, there's that just enough novelty in it that gets your attention. It makes it feel like it's new. Another thing that I've noticed that people do, I noticed that libs of TikTok start doing this at first, is that if they don't have some type of rage bait to post that day, do you know what they do? They just take some story or some video from a year ago, from 2 years ago, from 3 years ago, from 4 years ago, and they repost it as if it is something that just happened. And then boom, just like it did 2 years ago, video goes viral. Everyone's reacting. Oh, I can't believe these woke idiots are still doing this. So many of these people don't actually contribute to anything. They just make us mad. They make us angry. They make us sad. They make us hate each other. And for what? So they can grow an extra 100,000 followers on their Instagram, so they can get a few extra $1,000 from their ex payout. I don't know. His shiny object little story started off funny, but then it made me actually really think about how sad our current situation is.
And I think that you have the self-awareness to acknowledge that you get captured by that, as I do. And that's something I've thought about a lot this year. That was actually something that I was really considering as I, left comment section and was going out on my own, was how often did I fall into that out of the necessity of having to do 2 shows a day?
Yeah. And so for everyone that's followed me for a long time, you know that when I first blew up on YouTube, I was doing a lot of, and I didn't even realize that I was doing it, but I was doing a lot of things that were based on rage baiting, culture war, rage bait. And it's not like that I meant to do that. I genuinely thought that it was good content at the time, but it wasn't. It was just doing nothing but causing division. It wasn't adding anything constructive to the conversation. And I deleted all those videos. I deleted almost 2 billion views worth of videos from my YouTube, and it has tanked my channel. I used to get about 10 million views a day, more than that a lot of times. And now I get sometimes 10,000 views in a day. And it happened immediately after I deleted all those videos. Like literally the day after I deleted all those videos, my views just plummeted. Obviously because I had far less videos up, but also because I think I just screwed up YouTube's data on my channel. I screwed up the algorithm. But yeah, I relate to Brett here. Like, how often was I doing that out of necessity of releasing some type of video every single day, and just because of the echo chamber that I was in?
Okay, so I'm contracted to do these shows, need to come up with 2 things to talk about every single day. I was doing 10 episodes a week. And in looking back, I was like, how often was I just pulling things out of my ass? And they were all things I enjoyed talking about, and I thought that they were, funny. And I do think that in those situations, I'm of the opinion that, yes, there are far more important things to talk about. And I think I'm landing more there these days, especially with the content that I'm doing. However, I do think it's important when something is so egregious and ridiculous. It's less that I think it's important to wag the finger and say, this is so awful and, a atrocity, but also just to laugh at it. And I think that's where because it's so absurd. And the right is doing things that are absurd, and the left has been doing things that are crazy, but also the right has been doing the same thing. And I think that's kind of where I found myself landing, even throughout, comment section when I was doing 2 episodes a day. I did always come from a place of, what can we actually learn from this? I don't want to just make fun of something or bring something up for the sake of, ha ha ha, and pointing a finger, but what can we actually take away from this?
The kernel of truth that sits in it. Yeah.
And I always tried to end my episodes with that, because it was like, if I don't care about what I'm talking about, if there isn't something that people can learn from, then why am I even talking about that? But that was a big piece of reflection as I was leaving, and I scaled back my show tremendously. I was like, okay, I'm only going to do 2 episodes a week. They need to be really, really good topics. I need to really care about them, and I'll build from there. But I need to completely take a step back from this, hamster wheel that I've been in of 2 episodes every single day. and really find out, what do I like talking about? What is meaningful right now? Because no, I think everything you said was completely true. And it's so funny with the outrage cycle, and whoever is being critiqued just digs your heel in even more, or their, claws in, whatever
the
it is.
Response and the re-response.
Yes.
And then the
they're
meta
like,
reaction.
it's not actually happening. And then they're like, no, but it's a good thing that it's happening.
Yes,
and the right's
yes.
doing that too now.
It's not happening and it's good.
Yes, exactly. And two things can be true at once. But I found that humor was the best way to navigate that. Was like, I'm not going home at night and thinking about the gluten-free trans flag, but I do think it's funny to laugh at it, and we can spend 10 minutes going, this is really absurd. Can you believe our culture has gotten here? And that felt like the healthiest way to go about it.
What feels more unstable to you, politics or culture at the moment?
Politics or culture, which one is more unstable? I don't really think you can separate the two. And also, I used to always say politics is downstream of culture, which I still think is true, but I think that politics has become our culture. Politics is a part of our culture now. So I don't feel good in saying that one is less stable than the other.
And separate the two? I think that's my main question. They're so intertwined.
Hey, I got to get your attention really quick, but I think I'm going to start streaming on Twitch starting in 2026. Sometime in early January of 2026, I will be streaming these videos live from Twitch. And the greatest part about this is that you will be able to contribute to that conversation while I'm watching this. You'll be able to leave comments or, communicate in the chat, and I'll be able to respond to you and actually interact with you live. And then you will be adding value to these videos. I'm super excited to do it. Just wanted to let you know here first.